Imagine a world lit only by gas lamps and flickering candles. Then, in a flash of copper and glass, everything changed. But the light didn't come easily. It was forged in a brutal conflict between two of the greatest minds to ever live. On one side, Thomas Edison, the Wizard of Menlo Park. A ruthless businessman with a vision of a world powered by steady, reliable direct current. On the other, Nikola Tesla, the Serbian visionary, a man who saw a future pulsing with the high-voltage energy of alternating current. This wasn't just a laboratory debate. It was a total war for the soul of the 20th century. It was a battle of wires, massive egos, and global empires. It involved public smear campaigns, dangerous demonstrations, and the very first electric chair. Two men, two visions, one war that shaped how you power your life today. This is the story of the War of the Currents, and the reason your electric bill looks the way it does. Thomas Alva Edison wasn't just an inventor, he was the world's first R&D mogul. By the 1880s, his name was synonymous with the future. At Menlo Park, he'd established the Invention Factory, a place where he promised a minor invention every 10 days and a big trick every 6 months. He didn't work alone. He had a mucker's crew, a team of chemists, mathematicians, and machinists working around the clock under his relentless gaze. But Edison's greatest triumph wasn't just the bulb, it was the direct current (DC) system. Imagine a world where electricity was a local affair. Because DC couldn't travel more than a mile without losing power, Edison had to build power stations on every other street corner. It was a massive, expensive, and incredibly profitable infrastructure. It was a monopoly designed to keep the world tethered to Edison General Electric. To the public, he was the friendly wizard. To his competitors, he was a shark. He understood that in America, a patent was only as good as the lawyer who defended it. He was building an empire of copper wires, and he wasn't about to let anyone, or any new technology, unravel it. Then, in 1884, a different kind of lightning struck New York. Nikola Tesla stepped off a ship with 4 cents in his pocket, a book of poetry, and a letter of recommendation addressed to Edison himself. The letter read, "I know 2 great men. One is you, and the other is this young man." Tesla was the polar opposite of Edison. While Edison found solutions through grueling trial and error, testing thousands of filaments for a bulb, Tesla built his inventions entirely in his mind. Tesla could visualize complex machinery in 3D, run it in his head for weeks to check for wear and tear, and only then commit it to paper. He arrived with a revolutionary idea that Edison found repulsive: alternating current, AC. Tesla understood that by using transformers to step up voltage, electricity could be sent hundreds of miles over thin wires with almost no loss. Where Edison saw a world of local hubs and control, Tesla saw a global grid of free-flowing energy. He didn't care about the business of copper, he cared about the elegance of the electron. He was a man who lived in the future, trying to convince a man who owned the present. The 2 men worked together for a brief, tense period. Legend has it Edison offered Tesla $50,000, over $1 million today, to redesign his inefficient DC generators. When Tesla succeeded and asked for the money, Edison famously laughed it off, saying, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." Tesla quit that day. The lines were drawn. The wizard had the money, the fame, and the infrastructure. The outsider had a vision that would change the world. They were destined to clash. To understand Edison's direct current, imagine a garden hose. The water flows in one direction at one pressure. It's simple, it's safe, and it's what powered the first light bulbs in New York. But DC has a massive physical limitation: resistance. As electricity travels through a wire, it loses energy as heat. By the time Edison's current traveled a mile, it was too weak to light a lamp. This meant Edison's vision of the world was a patchwork of neighborhood power. If you lived in 1880s Manhattan, you had to live within 2,500 feet of a massive, coal-burning station. Thick, heavy copper cables, some as thick as a man's arm, cluttered the sky, leaking power every inch of the way. It was a centralized system. If you owned the power plant on the block, you owned the block. It was a perfect business model for a monopoly, but a terrible model for a growing nation. Nikola Tesla saw the world differently. He looked at Edison's garden hose and realized it was inefficient. His alternating current didn't just flow, it pulsed, changing direction 60 times a second. This allowed for a magical piece of technology, the transformer. With a transformer, Tesla could step up the voltage to incredibly high levels. High voltage can travel hundreds of miles over wires as thin as a finger with almost no loss. Once that power reached a city, another transformer would step it down to a safe level for home use. Suddenly, you didn't need a power plant on every block. You could build one massive plant at a distant waterfall, like Niagara Falls, and power an entire state. This was the birth of the modern grid. Tesla wasn't just building a circuit, he was building a network that was open, scalable, and, most importantly, revolutionary. Edison knew he was losing the technical argument, so he turned to the court of public opinion. He began a brutal smear campaign. He called AC the executioner's current. He lobbied politicians to ban high-voltage lines, claiming they were a death trap. To prove his point, Edison's team conducted gruesome public demonstrations, using AC to electrocute stray animals, trying to convince the public that Tesla's vision was a ticking time bomb in their living rooms. But Tesla had found a powerful ally, George Westinghouse. A man with the deep pockets and the industrial might to challenge Edison. Westinghouse bought Tesla's patents, and together, they began undercutting Edison's prices across the country. The war was no longer just about light, it was about the soul of American infrastructure. Edison fought to protect his copper empire, Tesla and Westinghouse fought to flip the switch on the future. As his copper empire began to crumble, Edison abandoned the lab and entered the theater of the macabre. He wasn't just arguing about physics anymore, he was arguing about life and death. He hired a man named Harold Brown, an engineer with a flair for the dramatic, to travel across the country conducting safety demonstrations. In public squares, they would use alternating current to electrocute stray dogs, cows, and even horses. The message was clear: AC was a wild, untamable beast. But the darkest chapter was the birth of the electric chair. In a masterclass of corporate sabotage, Edison's team worked behind the scenes to ensure that the state of New York's new, humane execution device was powered by a Westinghouse AC generator. Edison even tried to coin a new word for being electrocuted. He called it being Westinghoused. He wanted every American to associate the hum of AC with the stench of the death chamber. It was the most brutal smear campaign in industrial history. The turning point came in 1893 at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. This was the White City, a massive showcase of human progress. The organizers needed a way to light the entire fair, and the bidding war was fierce. Edison General Electric bid over $1 million. Westinghouse, using Tesla's patents, bid less than half that. Tesla won the contract, and Edison was so furious he banned Westinghouse from using his light bulb design. Tesla didn't blink. He simply invented a new, more efficient bulb that didn't infringe on Edison's patents. On the opening night, President Grover Cleveland pushed a button, and in an instant, nearly 100,000 incandescent lamps flickered to life. It was the largest installation of AC power in history. People who had been told AC was a death current stood in awe as they walked through a city of pure, safe, blinding light. The propaganda was dead. The proof was in the glow. If Chicago proved AC worked, Niagara Falls proved it could dominate. For centuries, the massive energy of the falls had gone to waste. Inventors had tried to harness it for years, but DC simply couldn't transport the power to the nearby city of Buffalo. In 1895, the Edward Dean Adams Station, powered by Tesla's massive AC dynamos, flipped the switch. Power surged from the falls to Buffalo, 20 miles away, with almost zero loss. It was the final nail in the coffin for direct current. For the first time, humanity had harnessed a natural force to power a distant civilization. Edison's tactics had grown desperate, but Tesla's vision had become unstoppable. The war wasn't just turning, it was over. The grid as we know it today had been born. By the dawn of the 20th century, the debate was settled. The War of the Currents ended not with a bang, but with a total surrender. Edison's own company, General Electric, quietly dropped his beloved direct current and adopted Tesla's alternating current system to stay competitive. AC became the heartbeat of the modern world. It allowed cities to glow, factories to roar, and the middle class to plug into a new way of life. But for George Westinghouse and Nikola Tesla, victory was financially exhausting. To save Westinghouse's company from bankruptcy during a hostile takeover, Tesla did something unthinkable. He tore up his royalty contract. He walked away from billions of dollars in future earnings to ensure his system would survive. He chose the light over the money. Thomas Edison was defeated in the trenches of the power grid, but he won the war of branding. He pivoted away from electricity and doubled down on the phonograph and motion pictures. He remained the great American inventor in the eyes of the public. While his DC lines were being ripped out of the streets, his name was being etched into the foundations of American society. Schools were named after him. Global corporations bore his initials. He died in 1931 as a national hero, a man whose failures in the current war were conveniently swept under the rug by a history that prefers winners to be wealthy. Tesla's path was much darker. Without his royalties, he moved from one hotel to another, his ideas growing increasingly eccentric. He dreamed of a world wireless system, a way to transmit power and information through the air, for free, to everyone. But the world wasn't ready for the internet in 1905. His funding was cut, his lab at Wardenclyffe was demolished for scrap, and the man who gave the world the 20th century was labeled a mad scientist. In 1943, Nikola Tesla died alone in room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel. He left behind a legacy of AC motors, radio patents, and neon lights, but almost no money. The war was over. The man who saw the future died in obscurity, while the man who fought to hold it back became an icon. Today, every time you flip a switch, you are witnessing Tesla's victory and paying the bill for the world Edison helped build. Take a look at your home. The way we live today is a strange, hybrid monument to both men. Every time you plug in a device, you are using Tesla's alternating current. His physics won. His induction motors power your refrigerator. His transformers allow the city to pulse with life. But look closer at how that energy is managed. The way it's measured, billed, and restricted is pure Edison. We live in a world of centralized utility companies, massive, corporate entities that own the flow of electrons. This was Edison's dream, a system where energy is a commodity, not a right. We don't have free, wireless energy beaming from towers. We have copper wires, monthly meters, and quarterly profits. Tesla gave us the light, but Edison gave us the bill. The War of the Currents decided more than just voltage levels. It decided the hierarchy of human progress. Tesla believed that once we understood the fundamental forces of the universe, energy should be as free as the air we breathe. He was a pioneer of the open-source philosophy before the term existed. Edison, however, was the architect of the proprietary world. He believed that innovation was only valuable if it could be patented, protected, and monetized. As we move toward a future of solar panels on every roof and decentralized microgrids, we are actually returning to the very questions these two men fought over 140 years ago. Are we moving toward Tesla's dream of independent, free-flowing energy? Or are we staying within Edison's cage of centralized control? The technology changes, but the struggle for who owns the flow of energy remains the same. So, the next time you flip a switch and the darkness vanishes, take a moment. You aren't just activating a circuit, you are interacting with a century-old conflict. You are touching the visions of a man who dreamed too big and the system of a man who built too strong. It is history in real time. It is a war that never truly ended, it just became invisible. I'm your host, and this was Time Recalls, where forgotten truths return to shape tomorrow. If you want to uncover more stories that change the world, hit subscribe. Stay tuned, because the next untold story is already waiting to be uncovered.